Golden Rashad. Whew. That was a close one. What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. For today, for the first time ever on my channel, I'm joined by Rashad from Rashad G Reviews to discuss one of the most iconic and highly loved adventure films of all time. It's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, or as it was originally simply titled, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark introduces us for the first time ever to the legendary Indiana Jones, played by Harrison Ford, an archaeologist passionate about preserving some of the world's hardest to find artifacts, many of which are presumed to be nothing more than folklore. In this first film, Indiana Jones is after the biblical Ark of the Covenant, which he intends to find before the Nazis do, as Hitler believes it can make his soldiers unstoppable. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to Rashad for being in my review today. I've been wanting to review something with him for a very long time, so it's great to finally have him here today, and we'll be hearing his thoughts on Raiders in just a hot second! But first I want to talk about some of the positives that I find in this film, as if there's any negatives. Am I right? No, this really is a nearly perfect film on all fronts, but there are maybe a couple of things that I did want to talk about in terms of negatives, but trust when I have to say that the negatives, hey, there's a cat gonna climb on me, I'm scared. But trust when I say the negatives this film has, if you can call them that, are so trivial that nobody's likely to care about them in the long run anyway. Anyways, one of the first things that come to my mind while watching this film is when you first hit play. There's something about the ambiance of the film that feels like it's the perfect adventure. I mean, there's been a million adventure films that we've seen in our entire lifetimes, but none of them, at least not the adventure aspect itself, is as good as Indy, I don't think. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's the directing by Spielberg, the acting from Ford, the story from Lucas, the music from John Williams, the nostalgia from seeing it throughout my entire life, or a mixture of everything combined. Because whatever the case may be, it's truly an unforgettable experience, and it only gets better with time. I have this belief, though, with Indiana Jones as a whole, that they're really only fantastic if the story revolves around something that many people can relate to and understand. Choosing the Ark of the Covenant, for instance, was a brilliant choice, specifically because it's not only biblical, but it's from the Old Testament, which many religions and cultures around the world are aware of and even believe in. I love looking up stuff like that, you know? Like, if things from the Bible really, truly happened, then where are these places? Where are these things? You know, where's the Garden of Eden? The Ark of the Covenant, Noah's Ark, the Staff of Moses, or like in The Last Crusade, where's the Holy Grail? And to see this average Joe transform into this action-adventure hero that goes all out to preserve these artifacts is something that I don't think many people can forget. And Harrison Ford blends into that role so freaking well. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's like Han Solo, where this character and this actor are essentially symbiotic in nature. Nobody else can play Han Solo. Nobody else can play Indiana Jones. If they try, they'll just look like they're attempting to cosplay or something. So, bringing it back to what I was saying, this is the perfect story for Indiana Jones, as is The Last Crusade. The other two, well, that's another talk show. Another thing that I wanted to mention here is that this kind of movie is perfect, even for today's day and age where the world is beginning to get, superhero exhaustion, because while Indiana Jones isn't, a comic book superhero, he might as well be. He has a second identity where he's just this normal professor guy, kind of boring, kind of average, and then he wears a costume, and he has a weapon of choice. He has a moral obligation and integrity to do what's right at all costs, and he deflects the things that would make him selfish. In many ways, this film has all the same ingredients of a superhero film in today's world. It just approaches it with insane originality, and while we've had other characters come into existence that seem to be like Indiana Jones, like Laura Croft or maybe Nathan Drake, they still haven't matched the caliber of what Harrison Ford set forth. Now, before I go on, let's hear what Rashad had to say about Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Take it away.
David, what's the deal? Pickles, is everything kosher? Thank you for having me on your channel, bro. It's an honor. to finally get on here with you, man. I'm a big fan. Love the way you break movies down and even teach me a big word every now and then. So today we're talking Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm going to say that again. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Why do I feel like I said that weird the first time? One of the best action-adventure movies ever. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were in the zone when they did this. Spielberg is arguably the greatest director ever lived. You know, that guy is like freaking Michael Jordan when it comes to film directors. So Raiders dropped in 81, and I think I was about, first time I remember watching this, I think I was maybe like 4 years old maybe. And it's funny because the movie's PG, but at the time, movies were either PG or R, you know what I mean? So PG-13 didn't come until 84, I think Red Dawn. I think Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie. So because of movies like Raiders and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Gremlins, they said, yeah, we might need to make another rating because these movies are very violent. Raiders of the Lost Ark, as great as it is a very violent film. You got people getting shot with bullet holes coming with blood bubbles spitting out of them. You got spikes going through heads, dismemberment. You know, people just getting knocked out left and right, ran over, people melting like candle wax. It's a very violent film, and I love it. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. This was the first of a great movie series, and it's a trilogy. Yes, it's a trilogy. I don't care what y'all say. And to me, the appeal of Indiana Jones is that he is the everyman. He's not superhuman like Schwarzenegger and Commando. He's not this stealth, you know, combat killing machine like John Rambo. He's an archaeologist, okay, who knows how to scrap. Don't get it twisted. Indiana Jones will tap your lip, okay? He can scrap, but you see him get beat up. You see him take an L. You see him get bruised and bloodied. And probably the funniest scene in the movie was after they got done fighting the Nazis. Him and Karen Allen were on the boat. And he's sitting there like, you know, like all messed up, like, ah. And then she takes the mirror and she flips it and it hits him under the chin. I mean, it uppercuts him under the chin and it's like, wow, ah. And she's like, did you say something? And you just see him sitting there like, so he's our hero, but he can't be hurt. So you do get scared for him. And even though you know he's not going to die, but the stakes are always so high, and Spielberg just knows how to direct the action scene where even when he's in the most dire situations, you're still afraid, even though you know he's going to come out of it, but you're still afraid, like, holy shit, Indy could die here. And Raiders of the Lost Ark was just a perfect example of that. But I will say it's probably the slowest of the trilogy. You know, that there is a stretch where it really does, it really does slow down. So you have that opening action sequence, you know, where when he retrieves that gold, whatever it is, I don't know. David, I'm pretty sure you're going to say the name of it. And just that whole scene where him and your boy Doc Ock were running, and you know, the ball and everything, and they get chased by the natives. So that scene was just breathtaking and exciting. And then it gets to the part where they show him as a professor, and that part for like maybe 15 or 20 minutes kind of drags a lot. So I watched this with my daughter not too long ago, and she was like she was zoning out for a minute. So I had to kind of be like Flavor Flav and hype her back up into it until the action picked up again. So when it gets to Nepal, that's where it picks up. So the snake pit and that when he fights the Nazis, you know, that chase sequence, there's just so many iconic moments in this film. It's damn near perfection. There's not one flaw. There's not one single flaw I can give this movie. It's perfect. Harrison Ford became a superstar here. He went from being the side character in Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back who stole the movie to now he is the star of the movie. He's a bona fide superstar, and sky's the limit. Harrison Ford became the biggest star in the world because of this movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Okay, so put some respect on his name. And how can I forget John Williams and his classical score? You know, John Williams and Steven Spielberg go together like peanut butter and jelly. You have to have them together. Okay, like they're like cheese and burger. You can't have Steven Spielberg without John Williams. They just complement each other so well. And he besides being the greatest director, John Williams is the greatest composer ever. So with that being said, because David, I know you have a lot to say about this, Raiders of the Lost Ark gets an easy A+ for me. All right. And you know what? I'm going to say that for another review because I want to talk about the other two movies. But right now, Raiders, let's focus on the task at hand. Raiders is that movie. I absolutely love it. I watch it at least a couple times a year. This movie makes everybody, damn near every movie lover, it makes their top 50, top 20, top 10, definitely in my top 20. All right, got to put it in there. put some respect with Indiana Jones' name. And that's it, and that's all. Dave, thank you again for inviting me. The floor is yours, man. What you got?
Yes! Thank you so much to Rashad for joining me in today's video. Everybody, check him out. I left a link to his channel in my description box down below. Send him some love. Tell him I sent you. I love hearing how much you love this film and how much you typically watch it a couple times a year. And I get it. You know, I really do. It's a movie that deserves a lot of love. And you're definitely right in calling it nearly perfect, because I agree. But as promised, I want to talk about some negatives now. So, Raiders is technically imperfect for one main reason. Some people may already know what I'm talking about before I mention it, because it's a glaring plot hole. And that is, if Indiana Jones didn't interfere at all, if he just stayed at that college teaching his boring students his boring knowledge or whatever, or if he wasn't even in the movie whatsoever, the Nazis would still do what they did in this movie. The outcome of the film would remain the same. Indiana Jones doesn't actually contribute anything to the plot. It would have still played out exactly as the movie did without Indiana Jones there. I don't know how else to put it. Honestly, he's mostly there intensifying the film with heart-pounding and intense action, and he's also there to kind of remind the audience of what he considers to be right and wrong. But yeah, the plot would have technically gone the same way whether he was there or not. It's weird. For the introduction for Indiana Jones, this massively iconic character, the introduction is actually not that relevant to what he's doing in a movie. But again, because he's just so good in this film, most people gloss over this issue without once realizing it's there. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So let's talk about my final score from an unbiased technical level. Even though some things have aged here and there and can be seen as maybe, campy, I feel like for the most part, that works for the film. Maybe that's because nostalgia or whatever, but I can't really complain about much here. The cinematography and editing is phenomenal and incredibly memorable. The music, of course, one of John Williams' best ever. The look and sound of Indiana Jones himself is unforgettable. But yeah, because Indiana Jones didn't technically do much to progress the story, that affects my score in the individual importance section. Other than that, everything is solid. This score is 88%. As for my bias score, or how I felt about the film in general, this is one of those movies where you can just watch it once, and I feel like you'll remember it for the rest of your life. So many scenes that just feel perfect, and that's what I'm gonna go with. My bias score is 100%. And when we average out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 94%, 94 out of 100 possible stars, or an A letter grade. It almost got an A plus on my end as well, Rashad, but as it is, it's still a crazy good time. One last thanks to Rashad before I sign off. It was great having you on my channel to discuss Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on the other films in the trilogy, as you put it, though with that attitude, I feel like I need to hear your thoughts on Crystal Skull as well. Anyways, guys, are you or are you not a fan of Indiana Jones? What are your thoughts on Raiders, and where do you place it when you rank the series as a whole? And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us. We